Rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
An approval for the April 7th minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
I'll second that.
Okay, hang on, I'll get this. Roll call.
Mr. Hanrahan,
Aye.
Mr. Jang,
Aye.
Mr. Ford,
Abstain.
Mr. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Cangrove.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Craig, can we have the first case, please?
Yes, sir. We'll start with the tabled case from 1-22-A, if it's all right with the
Okay.
board.
I'd like to suggest that Craig only read any changes he's made to the staff report from last time, so we don't spend all that time going over something we already did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine with me. The additional application since the April 7th, 2022 BZA meeting that was revisited was the addition that the structure will be the only structure for vehicle storage in a location with existing pavement with the best accessibility to the home. Again, there's existing vegetation that's surrounded by the front property line, and instead of the sewer system being located along the northern property line, it was actually the cistern. So that was the main changes through that. And so the action required is to approve, modify, or deny the applicant's request for variances to section 623 and 711.6 of the zoning resolution in order to allow for the construction of a 20 by 20 accessory building, which is carport in the designated front yard based on evidence, testimony, and finding of fact. And that concludes those changes within there.
So am I going to ask for testimony again? Okay, so we'll do this. Okay. All those in favor, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Testimony you're about to give the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
State your name for the record, please.
Larry Reed.
Okay.
You don't have to say anything honestly, but if you would like to say anything in favor of this, you're welcome to. So this is just an opportunity for you to do it. It's not a requirement that you do it.
Okay.
And if anyone would have any questions, then they could ask you. I'm not sure. Does anyone have any questions for him?
I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the applicant's request for a variance in section 623 and 711.6 of the zoning resolution in order to allow for the construction of a 20 by 20 foot accessory building carport in the designated front yard based on evidence, testimony, and finding of facts.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, Mr. Jang,
Aye.
Mr. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Hanrahan,
Aye.
Mr. Ford,
Aye.
and Mr. Cangrove.
Aye.
Motion carried.
You're good. Thank you.
I'd like to remark to Mr. Reed that I appreciate you taking the time to complete the application. It certainly helped me understand what you were asking about.
Yeah, it was just upsetting last time because you said that you told somebody 2 weeks prior to that and nobody got back to me, so we could have finalized it all in one meeting, that's all.
Yeah. I found that a bit frustrating too. Thank you
You'll just
for
need to
doing
see
that.
Craig, right, to get
Is
the,
that,
see,
yeah,
to see,
yep, yep,
you just need to see him at the office.
yeah,
So now I get a building permit, is that correct?
right.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Enjoy your evening.
Our office can give you the zoning permit, but the building permit you
Right.
have to get
Yeah.
down to Clermont
We'll
County.
follow up. We'll follow up with it.
Cool.
Okay, second case?
Our last case tonight is going to be 3-22-A. The applicant is Mallory Lane at, the request is at 3841 and 3845 Deekman Lane, and it is a variance request. The applicant is requesting relief from section 602 of the zoning resolution as to allow for the reduction of a minimum lot at the setback line within the R1 residential zone, reducing the yard width by 10 feet from 100 feet to 90 feet. The subject properties are located next to one another on the west side of Diekman Lane. The subject getting the 10-foot reduction in width is going to be located at 3845 Diekman Lane. Some background information: the applicant desires a reduction to a lot width at the setback line of 10 feet at 3845 Diekman Lane. The property was constructed prior to zoning regulations, and therefore the property is determined to be legal non-conforming lot pursuant to the side yard setbacks, not retaining the minimum 15-foot requirement. The applicant recently had a survey completed that showed the driveway installed 12-plus years ago was located on the neighboring property. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the lot width to properly place the driveway along with the mailbox and landscaping within the property. Additionally, the variance will help decrease the non-conforming lot by correcting the minimum side yard setbacks to the existing structures located between the property lines to the minimum 15-foot. After reviewing the proposed variance request submitted by the applicant, following observations can be made. The granting of this variance requested is in accordance with the general purpose of the zoning resolution for the R1 residential district. The proposed variance appears to be the minimum variance necessary to achieve the stated purpose of providing placement of the existing driveway in connection with the applicant's property. The granting of the request variance would not result in an establishment of a use not otherwise permitted within the R1 district. The proposal will not impede light or air to the adjoining properties, and the proposed request does not appear to grant any special privileges upon the applicant. The action required is to approve, modify, or deny the applicant's request for a variance in section 602 of the zoning resolution as to requested by the applicant in order to allow for the reduction of the width of the lot at the setback line by 10 feet from 100 feet to 90 feet within the R1 district as submitted based on evidence, testimony, and findings of fact. And that concludes the report.
Thank you. Anybody in favor of this application, please come forward and state your name, be sworn in.
Mallory Lane.
Okay. Testimony you're about to give is the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Okay.
That's right, yes. I have some pictures as well. I don't know if that would be helpful, just to try to see where the driveway is and the mailboxes, our landscaping and everything that's been there since before we purchased our home in 2009. I believe the owner previously owned both homes, and so he didn't take into consideration when he, sold both houses.
Right.
That it crossed the other property line there, so our neighbors and everyone's in agreement with us to move the property line.
Okay.
So you're gonna move the property line to line up with the fence?
Yeah, well, they actually built their fence because they knew that we were gonna try to move the property line. So they built their fence kind of, I don't know the exact word I'm
Like
looking
offset?
for, but just around the property
Offset,
line.
yeah.
Right,
Would go
just
around
to,
the
so that,
property.
yeah. Yeah, it's basically just so that our mailbox and our landscaping and our driveway is actually going to be on our property, and we wouldn't have to
Yeah.
take everything down, if they were to get new owners next door.
Do you want to show us your pictures?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think we all got the same thing, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to ask if there's anybody
You can, even though we don't see anyone.
What's the protocol?
Nobody else. Just ask, well, the first thing, are there any questions of the board for the homeowner?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I
You
do
do?
still have one question.
Okay.
Sure.
Which house is yours?
Our house is,
That
yeah, that one there, where the mouse is,
Okay,
yeah.
The left
but
one
it's
and
the
Yeah,
other
on the left.
property owner that wants the variance.
That's why.
Well, yeah, I had to file on behalf of them. They wrote a
Because
letter
it's
to me
correct.
saying,
Packet.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Okay.
That no one was
Well, I
being
guess,
tricked.
yeah, then we,
Right, right. We're gonna be land barons now. Yeah, right.
Okay, is there anybody in opposition to the application? Okay,
Discussion.
discussion of the board.
I don't have a problem with it.
I move that we approve the applicant's request for variance to section 602 of the zoning resolution as requested by the applicant in order to allow for the reduction of the width of the lot at the setback line by 10 feet from 100 to 90 feet within an R1 single-family residential district as submitted based on the evidence, testimony, and finding of facts.
I'll second that.
Do a roll call. Mr. Hanrahan?
Aye.
Mr. Jank?
Aye.
Mr. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Ford?
Aye.
And Mr. Canaro?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Welcome.
Mr. Canaro, if we do have one more item on the agenda. I would like to introduce Susan Ayers, our new administrator, just for introduction to the board here and then discussion of, anything foreseen in the zoning resolution or, the BZA function as a whole.
Okay, great.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to be on your agenda this evening. I wanted a chance to come and introduce myself. My name is Susan Ayers. I am the new Township Administrator for Union Township. I started with the township at the very end of March, so we are closing in on a month, which is funny how time flies when you're having a good time. And I'm trying to get around to meet as many people as possible, and it certainly included this group. By way of background, I come to the township from the city of Middletown, where I had been the assistant city manager. My background is in law. I grew up or cut my teeth as a prosecuting attorney, and transferred around a bit, did some community development, working with bus system zoning cases, and then got into city administration through the years. So very happy to be at the township. I grew up in the Anderson Township area, so I joke that this is a homecoming of sorts. I've spent so much time in the Eastgate area when I was growing up. Shame to see I'm not playing soccer on Brantner Elementary property anymore, but we are where we are, and I'm really excited to be here with the township. So wanted to just be here this evening, give you a chance to put a face with a name, and if there's anything I can help with during your service or your time in Union Township, I would love to be of assistance for you as well. The second set of topics that I was hoping to come to here this evening to at least introduce is that as I'm getting started, I'm taking a look at all the processes, things that we have in place here in Union Township, and seeing if there are things that we need to change, update, work with. One of those things being the zoning resolution. So you guys are obviously some of the experts on the topics, and you hear a lot of the cases that come in from residents. So I wanted to start to have a discussion. If you want to have something here this evening, I'm happy to listen and take notes. If you'd prefer to reach out to me later by telephone or email, I'm happy to take those comments. But just to reach out to this group that deals with the zoning ordinance so frequently, to see if there are things you think, you know what, it would be really good if we looked at changing a certain topic or a particular rule. And I'd love to take that feedback as we're reviewing it and working with the trustees to update the resolution. And I'm happy to take any questions you have.
I don't have a question.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Don't leave just yet.
Yeah. What he meant is he didn't have a question. He knows there's a question.
Yes.
He doesn't want to
Sure.
deal with the question.
Sure.
One of the issues that I have had with the zoning resolution and the interpretation by staff
Okay.
is that if someone attaches a garage
Okay.
to their primary structure, they can make that sucker as big as they friggin' want to.
Okay.
That's BS.
Okay,
We have a couple of instances around here that have really irked me, that the previous administration allowed to happen, and they're well aware of what my concern is, and Craig has awareness of that too, that, you know, at one point I suggested that we find a way to limit the size of a garage to either the maximum being a double standard, single door, garage door, or a single double garage door. My problem has been primarily with height.
okay,
I don't know how much you've gotten around the township, but there's a place down on Mount Carmel Tabasco Road, if you're heading towards Beachmont on the right-hand side, that has a massive garage that's sort of attached to the house.
okay,
And my opinion is that never should have been permitted to happen.
okay,
You know, it doesn't make that big a deal on that piece of property, but it should not be something that can be
Used as a precedent.
decided by staff to be compliant. If that size of a garage was being built on a piece of property without being affixed to the house, it wouldn't be permitted without variances. So we need to find some way in the zoning resolution to address that.
okay. We'll put that on the list to look at during our revisions.
I think that that also set somewhat of a precedence against our cases that we make a decision on.
Yeah.
If something like that has already gone in.
Yeah, I mean, we had a case last month. I guess you probably reviewed our minutes, but, you know, a case of someone who wanted to build a 30 by 70-foot garage down off of Sheila Road.
And R2 is 750 square feet is
Yeah,
allowable.
I mean, it was like
2,100?
2,100 feet versus allowable 750. Under the previous staff, if they would have attached that house to the garage with something more than a breezeway, the staff would have permitted it. That's absurd. So,
I appreciate the feedback. We'll put that on the list of things to look at and review with you and the trustees.
I feel like in the last 8 years, though, the number of cases for detached garages has been 300% more than we used to get. So it's, I mean, there's quite a number of people asking for detached garages. And we've also discussed the possibility of some type of variance dependent on lot size. So maybe you are in an R2, but if you sit on 5 acres, maybe, or you got 6 acres in an R2, maybe there's a little bit of a variance there that you could use a building bigger than 750 square feet.
And if it would be possible to come up with some sort of formula so that people can see it and understand it, rather than having it appear that we're just arbitrarily approving some and denying others. Because frequently, we seem to find ourselves in a position where we know it doesn't look good. And if we know that, then I'm sure folks are out there, well, they just approved this for over here, and they don't understand all the ins and outs. So if we could, on the front end, before we get here, and we try to have to sort it out and give explanations that really don't satisfy, let's just, they don't satisfy.
Which I think really comes down to making changes in the resolution itself.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Can I make sure I understand what you're asking for, just because I knew and I want
Yeah,
to make sure I
yeah.
understand? When you ask for guidelines, are you asking for, you know, if your house is X big, you could have a structure that's X big, or if your lot's X big, you could have a structure that's X big?
It'd be more related to the lot size.
more related
Yeah,
to
to the lot.
And that's why I just want to make sure I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what makes sense to you.
And something that on the front end, you know, whoever that person is, could show it to them, you know, here's the guidelines. And let's see if what you're asking for fits in. Because I feel like maybe sometimes in the past, folks have come here with an expectation that it's just gonna fly right through. And then usually,
They're not happy with us.
they're not happy with us, and, you know, not brother, Mr. Henry, I'm a pastor in my real job, so everyone's brother, but,
You can call me Tom.
okay, Tom, I'm from the South, my grandparents would beat me if I called
I'm
someone
not
older
that
than
much
me.
your elder. Give me a break.
Anyway,
I
but,
assume brother
but,
wouldn't be that bad either.
yeah, okay, but, you know, he'll catch it.
Sure.
You know, and I appreciate him doing that, but it
What-
just,
What is the protocol to make changes to the zoning resolution?
yeah.
So my anticipation at this point is I'd like to start opening up these conversations with people that have dealt with it, and then Craig and I will work to look at our resolution, compare it to maybe some ones that are around here that we think work well. I'd like to come back to this board with some suggestions and say, hey, this is what we think would work, and here's some resolution, and then have you either say, yes, I like that, yes, I don't like that. Ultimately, we would then take that to the trustees, who would then make the resolution. That's not a short process, I understand that, but I do think it's a great stepping stone to say, okay, let's have some intelligent discussion, let's work out what we think some answers are, get to a point where everybody that's working with it has as much agreement as possible, or at least has a chance to make their say over what some of the suggested changes are, and then ultimately the trustees would vote on it.
And with the text amendment process too, it does start with the zoning commission, kind of like a zone change type sort. So they'll also hear it and then recommend it, so all three boards would then essentially get to hear and what
So a
their
good 3
choice-
weeks then.
So not a quick process, but I'm
Right,
hoping to open up
right.
some of those conversations to make very purposeful, hopefully helpful changes that would ultimately make everybody's life easier.
Yeah.
Well, you've already done some research on that.
Yeah, and I know Corey's dove into it, and it's just gonna be pulling that all together.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Do you prefer that we call you Miss Ayers, Susan, Sue?
I would prefer Susan, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
But Susan or Mrs. Ayers works just fine.
Okay.
I will tell you, there's a very short list of people that can call me Sue or Susie, and most of them were my grandparents. So we'll go with
Yeah,
Susan or
I have
Mrs.
that
Ayers.
issue with relatives too. So.
Certainly, as you are working through and you think about cases, if there are other of these types of suggestions or things that you would like to bring to my attention, I welcome you to give me a call or send me an email. It doesn't have to be a conversation we finish this evening. I think I missed giving you my card, Mr. Harringham, but I will do it before we leave today. Everyone else, I believe, has a card with my contact information, and I certainly welcome that anytime I can be of assistance. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for yours.
I have the
Appreciate it.
I kind of have the reputation of coming in at the last minute before the meeting starts, but
Well, you're always here.
I'm always here.
At least he's here, unlike some
Usually.
people.
Brian,
Thanks.
questionable.
I knew. Thought I might as well.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Mr. Hanrahan,
Aye.
Mr. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Jank,
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
and Mr. Canfro.
Aye.
Motion carried.